For the third year and counting, Ritchard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you've really
run out of time, and we've got to talk about your latest. I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Ritchard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Ritchard Skipper.
Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Ritchard Skipper Celebrates. Who or what are you celebrating tonight? I'm celebrating gratitude, and I'm also celebrating the fact that today is Hug a News Person Day. So if you know any news people, hug them. They work very hard for what they do. I'm also celebrating one of my favorite musicals, one of my favorite musicals, not only on stage, but in the movies, and that is West Side Story. The first West Side Story in 1961, and all of the incarnations between that, leading up to that, and between. And there was one particular man who has done so many productions of West Side Story, and that is David Bean. Not only has he appeared in the original West Side Story, and he's written a book about it, but he has also appeared in the reimagining. I don't call it a remake, it's a reimagining. And he is going to tell us all about that tonight. And David, you have also appeared in over 700 productions of West Side Story, I think. Am I correct?
Well, actually, I didn't keep count, but technically, yes. Actually.
So, David, welcome, first of all, to the show. The show, of course, is Ritchard Skipper Celebrates. I always begin by asking you, in addition to the fact that we're celebrating your book, who or what are you celebrating tonight? And I see that you've got Jeannie's name here, the love of your life. So I know that you're celebrating her as well. And we're going to be meeting her later on. But what else are you celebrating today?
Basically, our 60th wedding anniversary was just 4 days ago. So we've had a absolutely spectacular partnership. And it was really worth the one lament that I have about it was that up to this point in our 60 years, I've always given her at least one tulip for every year. I forgot this year. We nearly didn't make it to 60 years.
You nearly didn't make it to 60 years because you forgot the tulips?
It comes with 60 tulips.
Well, maybe I'll send you 60 tulips for doing the show tonight. How about that?
Now, well, we made up for it. We have tulips all over the house now.
Well, I really appreciate that. As I said, we're also celebrating gratitude. I'm grateful that she didn't kill you and that you're on the show tonight. So what are you grateful for right now, David?
Basically, this point in our life, having written the book and having a resurgence of all the stuff that we've done over the last 60 years, more than that, 70 years, come back, it's just filled us up. It's unbelievable. Letters and comments from all over the world, technically. We've had reviews from Japan, from London, from Paris, and they have been absolutely wonderful. I'm just blown over.
Congratulations. It is a great book. I've enjoyed reading it. I've enjoyed getting to know you. And I begin my shows with a random question. And it's so random, in fact, that I haven't even looked at the question that I'm going to start with, that I begin with, believe it or not. That's how crazy I am. But the question is, if you could do anything in the next year, what would it be?
In the next year?
Yes.
Well, basically, Jean and I just redid an old office that we had below one of the stores that we have. And we call it the man-girl cave. And we sort of have all our old paintings and old furniture and some desks and a beautiful place to sit and to go. And Jeannie's writing a book now. So basically, that's where we are. We want to present all the people that we've ever had dinner with. Some very big stars, some not so big stars, but just beautiful people. And then, of course, the whole story follows by putting the recipes down.
What a great idea for a book. I can't wait. And hopefully you'll both come back. Or better yet, maybe I'll come to you and we'll do the interview there. How's that?
That'd be great fun.
I would love that. I want to go back. I love to start my shows, and you do talk about this in the book. Your childhood is so fascinating to me. I always like to go back to the 5-year-old self, because to me, the 5-year-old self is the purest self. It's before the demands of life began to get layered on you, and teachers start telling you who you should be or who you shouldn't be. But you had a very strong sense of who you were at such a very young age, because of the household that you were growing up in. And thank God that you grew up in this household filled with music. It was the household that, and I love the way you describe this in the book, that everyone in the neighborhood wanted to be at your household. Can you tell our viewers a little bit, without giving away too much because we want them to buy the book, about that household that you grew up in?
Well, our house was the Saturday Night Live. Basically, every Saturday night, everybody congregated in our living room. Mother played the piano. We had a beautiful upright piano. And she taught Dad to play. So they played duets. My oldest brother, Don, played the trombone. Gary played the French horn. Roberta played the violin, not all that well. Janet and I danced. We tap danced and did musical numbers together. And I played 4 songs on the piano that I could sing. But there was no limit to what anybody could do because the neighbors would come in and entertain. But it was just one musical night. It all started every night, every Saturday night, with Mother playing Claire de Lune. Just, and that, talk about a memory. It's just outrageous. But it was wonderful because we have no inhibitions. Everybody got up and just did their heart out. And it was very easy to continue that for the rest of my life because that's all I knew.
So as you know,
can I skip forward? I'll go right to, my dad was a junk man, and I used to work on the weekends with him. I'd be on the back of the truck because I have 3 older brothers that would help him. He would go and collect things out of people's homes, and we'd sell it, but it would be collected on the truck. Well, we carried my tap shoes on the truck, and Dad would say, "Hey, Dave, come down here. This guy wants to see you dance." Well, 2 seconds, I'd be down there, and I'd knock out, "I got rhythm." Blah, blah. It was easy. It was just the best thing in the whole world, and I would do it at the drop of a hat. One day, my dance teacher said, "We are going to send you to an audition." I said, "Really? What's that?" I said to my dad, "What's an audition, Dad?" I had no idea. At that time, I was 14, just turned 14. I said, "I don't know what that means, really." And he said, "Well, Dave," he says, "you know when you're on the back of the truck and I call you down to dance for somebody in the street? That's what it is. They ask you to dance, you do it." Well, I went into that audition, and it happened to be for Jerome Robbins.
Yes. And just tell them who was in the show, and I'm sure they're going to guess the show.
The show, we were auditioning in Los Angeles, actually in Hollywood. And the show was Peter Pan with Mary Martin and Cyril Ritchard. And I was cast as Slightly Soiled, one of the lost boys, and at age 14. So out of California, on a train to New York. That was the whole start of everything.
But, it's just so amazing to me that, first of all, your parents were, your father completely out of this world of show business. but they supported you in your belief in dance and music and everything, that they encouraged you to go and do this. And how did your father hear about this audition for Peter Pan?
It was my dance teacher. I had an original dance teacher in Arcadia, California, and he said to my mother, who actually played the piano for him, which paid for my lessons. And he said, I can't teach David anymore. You have to send him to Eddie Gay in North Hollywood. He's the pro. He works with people in the film industry, and he's really good. David could do. The next thing I know, Ann Miller and Donna O'Connor were in class, and I was dancing with people in Hollywood. It was an hour and a half drive for my mother 3 times a week. So basically, it was that man, that teacher, Eddie Gay, was the one who sent me to the audition. And actually, Dad was the one who drove me there because Mom was playing the piano down in San Diego. She had a gig at a hotel down there. And the first thing that happened at the audition was that Jerome Robbins came out and he gave us all these ballet steps. Well, that was unusual because I took tap. I wasn't allowed to put my tap shoes on. So I thought, well, I'll just do whatever it is he wants me to do because that's what we do, right? And I could see my dad standing up in the back. And I said, well, he wasn't too thrilled about my taking ballet, but I'm going to knock it out anyway. When I went to see him after it was over, I said, what'd you think? He looked at me, well, he said, Dave, that was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. You doing ballet.
Well, Jerome Robbins is, has a reputation. Let's start there, and you can go there if you want to later on. But Kathleen Nolan, who I've interviewed here as well, and she happens to be a friend as well. And she talks about, Wendy and auditioning for that. She wasn't a dancer. And she said that allowed her to evolve into what she became in that role. And she has very much respect for him. Going into this and not being a part of that world, was it very intimidating for you at such a young age to go into that world, even though you had been dancing, in a dance class and everything, but to all of a sudden be thrust into a whole different type of the world of dance beyond what you had been used to?
Not at all. It was second nature. It was another day of doing something that I absolutely loved. I had the confidence, all the confidence in the world. There was never a doubtful moment. Jerry Robbins was the reason that I had to start taking ballet lessons. And by the time I was 16, I did a stint with the Metropolitan Opera Ballet Company. It was a gift, but I've never, ever had a problem with intimidation or a strange feeling about doing something that was unusual in the theater, because that's all I knew. I did it every day.
Frank Langella, and I've mentioned this before in his wonderful book as well, it talks about that first moment when you step out of the darkness into the light, that first moment of stepping on stage. What are your recollections of that first time stepping from the darkness into the light in front of an audience?
I remember the lights at the Winter Garden Theater. We opened in San Francisco and played Los Angeles before we came to New York. So it wasn't something that in New York City on Broadway, at the Winter Garden Theater. I remember the lights, strangely enough. The very beginning of playing there, but you could see the lights coming on. And I thought, wow, this is not that I didn't remember them in San Francisco, but they had it's a big memory for me. Mm-hmm. On the opening night in New York, I had a solo at the end of I Won't Grow Up. And Jerry had me sing it growly. He says, I won't grow up, right? And I had on leather pants. They were canvas pants and a leather pony vest. And my pants were split from the butt right up to the middle. I won't grow up. Remember that going on. You got a big laugh.
So, and then, beyond that, work starts coming your way. And we're going to make a lot of jumps here because there's so much to cover in the book. And again, just incredible. When you first became aware of West Side Story, and it didn't start with just the movie, but let's go with your first hearing about West Side Story. And this has been a part of your life since, I think you said 17 years old. It's been and still is. And I think when I think of West Side Story and you, David, I think of it as the gift that keeps on giving on so many levels.
You are so right. At this particular point in our life, it's still giving. It's been the most gracious thing to us in the whole world. Jean and I have fed off of West Side Story in every business that we've ever created. Since retiring out of dancing, we've created 26 different careers, and it's all been evolved. It has all evolved around theater. Mainly West Side Story, because it is. If I were to have only done one movie my entire life, how fortuitous that it was West Side Story, because that has followed us and given to us forever. And we're so grateful for it because it was so exciting and wonderful. It wasn't, I could have been in Gone with the Wind. I was born, I don't know nothing about babies, Miss Charlotte. I was born the year that thing was made, but it would never have had the effect on my life as West Side Story has, had I done Gone with the Wind.
Well, your performance in West Side Story has affected all of us. As a matter of fact, why don't I show them your performance in West Side Story? And then, we'll get back to West Side Story on the other side of this. Here you are in West Side Story.
Hey, you! Who, me, Officer Krupke? Yeah, you! Give me one good reason for not dragging you down to the station house, you punk!
Dear kindly Sergeant Krupke, you gotta understand, it's just our bringing upkeep that gets us out of hand. Our mothers all are junkies, our fathers all are drunks. Golly Moses, naturally we're punks. Gee, Officer Krupke, we're very upset. We never had the love that every child ought to get. We ain't no delinquents, we're misunderstood. Deep down inside us there is good. There is good. There is good. There is good. There is untapped good. Like inside, the worst of us is good.
That's a touching good story!
Let me tell it to the world.
Just tell it to the judge!
Dear kindly judge, your honor, my parents treat me rough with all their marijuana. They won't give me a puff. They didn't want to have me, but somehow I was had. Leap on lizards, that's why I'm so bad.
Right, Officer Krupke, you're really a square. This boy don't need a judge, he needs an analyst's care. It's just his neurosis that ought to be quiet. He's psychologically disturbed.
I'm disturbed.
We're disturbed, we're disturbed, we're the most disturbed, like we're psychologically disturbed. Hey! In the opinion of this court, this child is depraved on account he ain't had a normal home.
Hey, I'm depraved on account I'm deprived!
So take him to a head shrinker. You!
Who, me?
Oops.
My daddy beats my mommy clobbers me. My grandpa is a commie, my grandma pushes tea. My sister wears a mustache, my brother wears a dress. Goodness gracious, that's why I'm a mess.
Yes, Officer Krupke, he shouldn't be here. This boy don't need a couch, he needs a useful career. Society's played him a terrible trick. Unsociologically, he's sick.
I am sick. We are sick. We are sick. We are sick. 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 Like we're sociologically sick.
In my opinion, this child does not need to have his head shrunk at all. Juvenile delinquency is purely a social disease. Hey, I got a social disease. So take him to a social worker.
Which way?
Right there.
Dear kindly social worker, they tell me get a job, like be a soda jerker, which means like be a slob. It's not I'm antisocial, I'm only anti-work. Glory, Oski, that's why I'm a jerk.
Yeah, Officer Krupke, you've done it again. This boy don't need a job, he needs a year in the pen. It ain't just a question of misunderstood. Deep down inside him, he's no good. I'm no good.
We're no good, we're no good, we're no good. Clean good, like the best of us is no damn good.
The trouble is he's lazy.
The trouble is he drinks. The trouble is he's crazy.
The trouble is he stinks.
The trouble is he's growing.
The trouble is he's grown.
Krupke, we've got troubles of our own. Officer Krupke, we're down on our knees. 'Cause no one wants a fella with a social disease. Officer Krupke, what are we to do? Officer Krupke, Krump you!
Do you ever get tired of seeing that?
No.
And and dear Harvey Evans, so great to see him in this, and Burt Michaels, and just so many people that I've gotten to know over the years, thanks to organizations like Dancers Over 40 and the great work that they do. And so your introduction to West Side Story, let's start there, and then we're going to move over to how you and your beautiful wife Jeanie met.
Well, that was relatively easy. Originally, when Jerry conceived West Side Story, because I worked for him in Peter Pan, he called my agent when they was developing the Broadway original and said, "Where's David? I'm doing this show called West Side Story." And my agent, who was Milton Goldman at the time, said, "David's in California and he's going to school. He's going to get his diploma. He's not doing any shows now until he gets his diploma." What? And of course, he didn't tell me he did that until a few years later. Jerry, eventually, they opened on Broadway, which was the huge success. And he immediately started thinking of doing a production for London. And they was going to have Cheetah and Tony and a few of the kids from the original production go to London and open in London. And he called my mother and he said, "Did David graduate?" And she said, "Yes." He said, "Well, put him on a plane. I want him in New York on Monday morning. We're starting rehearsals." Well, actually, we're having auditions. And I was there for 4 days auditioning at the Winter Garden, by the way, which was very calming for me because I knew the theater. Mm-hmm. And that was that. The next thing I knew, I was doing West Side Story for London. And we rehearsed the entire show at the Alvin Theater in New York City. We were ready to produce a production when we got to Manchester, England. We opened in Manchester.
So you performed at Her Majesty's Theatre in London, and George Chakiris was also in that production. George Chakiris did not play Bernardo, everyone. He was Riff. But this beautiful dancer comes into audition on point. So tell us a little bit about that dancer who came in and how that changed the trajectory of your life.
Actually, she came in, a friend of hers. She was working in Germany for the U.S., I think it was the Army, and choreographing shows and working for them. And she was with this friend in London when they walked by the theater. And the man said, her friend said, "Oh, Cheetah Rivera's in this. I know Cheetah. We'll go back and say hello." So Jean was left at the stage door, and our stage manager came up to her and said, are you here for the auditions? And she said, no, I just doing, are you a dancer? She said, yes. He said, well, we are having auditions tomorrow. If you're interested, come to. Jean had no idea what West Side Story was about. None whatsoever. And of course, Tony Mordente, who was at the time Chita Rivera's husband, was in charge of the entire show. And he was auditioning. And Jean arrived, perky, she's all of 5 feet tall. And she arrived wearing point shoes. It was charming.
And that should be a perfect introduction to bring her on right now.
Yes, this is
open the screen up and
gentlemen, my bride of 60 years.
Yes, 60 years. Hello, Jean. It's great to see you.
Same here. How exciting is this?
I am so thrilled that you were here. So you both meet during West Side Story. And as I said to David, the musical, the show, Romeo and Juliet, the show that keeps on giving. No tragic ending for both of you. The love story that keeps on giving.
It's been a production that has just continued to go. Like at the risk of being redundant, it's still giving. I was with the show for almost a year and a half in London, and I left with another jet. Eddie Verso, who was playing Baby John at the time. He was a jet. And both of us left. We did 6 weeks of Europe. We just took off. And we came back. And of course, by that time, I had hooked up with Jean and we had dated. And I was going back to New York. So we all said goodbye. And Eddie had gotten a letter from Jerome Robbins. George had gotten a letter from Jerome Robbins and auditioned actually in London. I, on the other hand, took a slow boat back to New York. And when I got there, Milton Goldman, my agent, said, Jerome Robbins is looking for you. What are you doing? And I said, well, I'm on my way to California because that's to see my parents. I've been gone 18 months. And he said, well, good. He said, they want to see you at the Sam Goldwyn Studios and wear rehearsal clothes. The next thing I know, I'm on a plane to Los Angeles, and we started rehearsing the film right away, literally doing, it's fun to say, we've done 16 versions of every 8 bars of music that ever done. And basically, Jerry was just having a great time redoing everything. And when we actually filmed it, it was pretty much the same as it was on stage. It was very interesting, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, so much has been written about the process, and I've been very, very fortunate not only to have George Chakiris on the show, but we have become good friends. I've spent time with him out in California.
Oh, wonderful.
And George he has nothing but the utmost respect for Jerome Robbins and his contributions to the film. And he feels that as time has gone on, that he feels that he has not always gotten the respect that he feels that he deserves on the film because of his, being removed from the film and the way that it happened. If you can give us your take on, I know that so much, it was the painstaking attention to detail that he was spending on the film. And from your perspective, working on the film, was it frustrating for you? Did you feel that he was doing the right thing? Looking back on everything, what is your perspective 61 years later?
Actually, I didn't feel that at all. I felt that everything that he did was warranted, and everything he did was genius. The fact that we had to do it 400 times, that's making movies. So basically, why are you complaining? You're in here to work, and that's what he's asking you to do, and that's what we did. Interestingly enough, Jerry had an enormously bad reputation for being as the Brits would say, a bastard. He really wasn't if you gave him 180%. Mm-hmm. If you worked your butt off for him, he loved you and he left you alone. Jerry has never, ever said a thing to me because I've never let down. It's called, I call it the Cheetah Rivera effect, because you've never seen Cheetah mark a step, even in rehearsal. And that's brilliant. And if the young people today can pick that up and do that for whoever they're working for, they will go a long way, and it'll be a lot more enjoyable for them to do that.
Well, as it was in the film with the one that we just saw, the second one. I mean, the dancers are absolutely phenomenal. When you did when you went to New York.
Oh, the Spielberg version, yeah.
Yes. Oh, good Lord.
But George Jukera, getting back to George. George and I were like brothers.
Yes.
A couple of years older than I am, and we shared a house in London. And it was just spectacular. We had the best time. We really did. We had bicycles so that we could bicycle to work.
Behind the palace, my dear.
Yeah, we were.
I have a photo of the two. Here you are.
But George was technically a riff for the year and a half that we were in London, and he arrives in Hollywood, and now he's a shark, and I'm not allowed to talk to him. That's the sharks, and he's my big brother. I love this man. I can't not talk to him. What are you talking about? And literally, Jerry did have. Actually, I think they did this from the original Broadway show. They wanted the Jets and the Sharks separated. They were not allowed to fraternize. Literally, they could, I suppose, but technically, they wanted them. They wanted the edge, and they got it. Jerry got it, because when we were on the set, if we weren't doing filming, we were wary of the Sharks, because they would pants us. They would throw balloons up. The shenanigans that went on between Jets and Sharks, brought on by Jerry's encouragement, was costly for the company. I remember Eddie Verso and Jaime Rogers were in the Flies one day, and they ambushed a bunch of us with water balloons and ruined somebody's set. Billy Wilder threatened to get off the lot if they didn't calm us down, because we had chariot races in the streets. It was a riot in London, in Hollywood. But George was absolutely wonderful as Riff, as well as brilliant as Bernardo.
Oh,
were you surprised when he went from being Riff to Bernardo?
No, not really. I was surprised by virtue of the fact that I wasn't allowed to talk to him, but surprised, no. George is a very talented kid.
Oh, amazing. Just an amazing artist.
Have you heard him sing? Have you heard any of his records?
Oh my God, I have his records.
I sat with him when he recorded the Gershwin album. He recorded 2 songs sitting down in the studio. He didn't even take off his coat, his overcoat.
It's not Perry Como.
Like Perry. He was so
that's right.
So casual about the whole thing, but it was brilliant. It was wonderful.
Well, you were very good friends. Just go back to when you first heard that he was nominated. Let's start there, for the Academy Award. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to go back to when we finished doing the movie. Robert Wise, who was the co-director, Jerry had since left already. Robert Wise called me into his office, and he asked me, he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I have been offered to go back and do play action in West Side Story for the British tour in England." And I said, "What do you have in mind?" And he said, "Well, I have 2 movies that are a possibility that you could be in. There are parts for you in those. One is a Western." I said, "Bob, you ever see me on a horse?" Crap on a horse. You don't ever want me in a Western, And he said, "Well, the other is a war movie." And I said, "Whoa, what's that about?" He said, "Well, it's with Steve McQueen. It's called The Sand Pebbles." He said, "There's a nice part in that for you if you want it." Well, all this time, he didn't know I was going back to England. Guess who?
Yeah.
I knew who was there, right? So I'm sitting there thinking with my hormones and saying, I think what I'll do is I'll go back and take the job in London. Thanks very much anyway. And I did. I flew back to London and did the British tour. And of course, Jean was very much there. We actually had a week before rehearsals started, and Jean was playing anybody's in the show. Which I knew. And we had a week before, so we flew to Switzerland and sunk a 36-foot sailboat on Lake Zurich in February.
That was the last time David ever listened to me. David, I think you should tighten the sail, darling. Will it? Have you done this before? Oh, I'm sure that's what you do.
David, I'm going to tell you something that I end every show with, but I'm going to say it early tonight. Never go out on a boat without a skipper.
So where were you? Oh Lord.
Oh dear. But we did the tour of London, of England actually, for the entire year of 1961. So let's filter back now. George was nominated, and the movie was nominated for all the Oscars. I think there were 11 they were nominated for. And I didn't know anything about it because we were on tour and we were sort of out of the loop.
You don't get too much from Leeds, darling, or Leicester, or
technically, I didn't really know what was going on during the awards when West Side did very well. Actually, we got back, and I literally later I found out George had won the Oscar.
Wow! So you didn't realize the cultural impact that West Side Story was having on the States at the time?
No.
Wow.
No. But the one impact that I did know, we were in Glasgow, and Jean's mom and dad, who were Cockney, they're wonderfully funny people, beautiful people. They saw us off on the tour. And when we got to Glasgow, they wrote us a letter. Said, darlings, you're not too far from Gretna Green. Now that's a place that you could go to get married without parents' consent. He said, if you run off to Gretna Green, we promise we won't tell anyone. I wrote him back. I said, you fools, it's you we're not supposed to tell.
They were essentially giving you their consent.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Jean had a dress made in Glasgow, and one of the kids in the show made her pillbox hat, her little Jackie Kennedy hat with all the little bugle beads on it. And we went to London and we were married in Knightsbridge. And guess who was my best man?
Captain Hook.
Captain Hook, Cyril Ritchard.
Oh.
And he flew over to London, and we were staying at a hotel the night before, and he said to me, dear boy, he said, and I'm sure anybody who knows Cyril's reputation and Cyril, is that he was a devout Catholic and a beautiful Catholic. And he said, where is this church you're getting married in? And I said, well, the Brompton Oratory. He said, well, of course, yeah. It's right on the High Street in Kensington. And his brother, Edgar, who was an artist, painted one of the chapels in the Brompton Oratory. It's all trompe l'oeil. It was just beautiful. And so Cyril knew it very well. And I said, well, alongside the Brompton Oratory is this small lane lined with these beautiful trees, and directly behind the church is the Holy Trinity, and that's where we're getting married. And Cyril said, oh, yes, dear boy, the church behind the better one.
What a smell.
The Conquer-Gnaws.
That's what the Conquer-Gnaws. Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story very quickly. Years ago at Lincoln Center, they did a series called the Cyril Ritchard Seminars. And Celeste Holm was speaking at one of them. And I went to them. And one afternoon, this woman stood up and she says, excuse me, I've been coming here every day and Cyril Ritchard has yet to show up. And Celeste Holmes said, "Dear madam, he's dead." He said, "You mean he's not coming?" Oh,
dear.
How funny.
oh my God. So, but anyway, getting back to the film opens and, this huge phenomenon of a hit, and it didn't leave movie theaters for a long, long, long time. You said that you were in London, or you were in Europe when the film opened. So you missed going to any of the premieres, am I correct?
Oh, correct. All of it.
So when was the first time that you two together saw it on film?
We didn't see it.
It was that matinee
No.
in Leicester Square.
Yes, but we had finished doing the show, and we were getting ready to get married, and we saw it in Leicester Square at a theater. It was in February of '62. This is the first time I saw it.
And as you are watching this film unfold with everything, I mean, we're all artists, were you completely happy with the outcome of the film? Were there things that you had filmed that made it on the cutting room floor, or was there anything missing that you wish had made it to the final film, or were you completely happy with the final result?
Totally. Totally happy. Most everything that I did was not cut. Technically, I did all the dance. I was one of the Jets, so I did all the dancing, and I could see myself. Not that anybody else could probably see me, but I followed myself dancing wise, and I thought it was wonderful. I enjoyed myself.
Now, I want to go now. I'm going to really jump ahead. The film is a huge success and continues to be a success. And throughout the years, it keeps bringing you back in, as you said, various businesses are happening. And then just a few years ago, a young man that some of our viewers may have heard of by the name of Steven Spielberg decides that he's going to put his own stamp on it. I even have a photograph of the two of you together. Here you are at the premiere. When did you first hear that there was going to be, as I refer to it, a reimagining of West Side Story? And for both of you, what was your initial reaction to the fact there was going to be a revisiting of this?
I know mine. What was yours?
Oh, I was ecstatic. But I do have to tell this little quick.
Oh, of course.
Hoffer?
Yes.
No, that comes in a minute.
Oh.
I have to technically
Upstaging me, I do believe.
Yes, just a hair.
Okay.
I was aghast at the fact that they were going to redo the movie. I thought it would be a waste of time. I said, you can't do that. It doesn't make any sense to me at the time. And then that was a long time before Gene's Stories coming up happened. We have a building in a little town we live in, and my daughter has a business in it called Jeanie Bean and Family.
In Clinton Corners.
In Clinton Corners, New York. It's 80 miles north of New York City. And in this Café Deli, which seats 50 people, at the back of the room we put a portrait up of Daddy.
We were desperate.
Yeah. I had a portrait painted in London when I was 18, and I had sent it to my mother, and she had it over her piano until the day. And when she died, I got the portrait back. So it went into the store.
Lucky us.
Yes, lucky you. And a chap walked into the store one day from Brooklyn. He was traveling up and down the Taconic Parkway, which is not far from us. And he asked the waiters, "What's the painting on the wall?" And my daughter was giving him lunch, and she said, "Well, that's my dad. He was in West Side Story." He's really? He said, "Yes, he's in the back. Would you like to talk to him?" Well, I was in the back, counting the money, of course. This is Scrooge. And I came out and I talked to this chap, and his name was Andrew Hoffer.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew. Ta-da. Andrew Hoffer. We must have sat there for 45 minutes and talked, because we're not shy of words to find. Andrew left. I thought, well, I'll probably never see him again. He lives in Brooklyn. So it was fun. It was nice to him. And about 9 months later, I get a call from the Tolan agency of Steven Spielberg. He said, would you be interested in doing a cameo in Steven Spielberg's remake of West Side Story? And of course, I should have said, well, I'll think about it. And I didn't. What happened was Andrew Hoffer wrote a letter to Steven Spielberg.
Unbelievable.
And he said, I just met this terrific guy that et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, he dumped it on this letter. It was unbelievable. And he said, wouldn't it be super for Steven Spielberg to have a chance to sprinkle a little fairy dust on his cast by having one of the dancers from the movie on the street with you? And that's when I got a call from the Tolan agency, and I had my cameo, and guess what? There it is.
I mean,
There you are.
There
how many times does that happen in one's life?
I know. I mean, talk about full circle. It's just incredible,
isn't it?
Oh.
And Andrew Hoffer,
and it's a testament to the fact you never know. Joan Crawford once said, be nice to every person you meet, because the person sweeping the floor today may be running the studio tomorrow. And a friend of mine went a step further and said the person running the studio today may be sweeping floors tomorrow. So I always say, be nice to everybody you meet, everyone. You never know who's walking through that front door. So you can find yourself doing a cameo in a film.
But you know, the lovely thing was that David, we could not find an ending to the book, and there it was. It's a wonderful ending.
We have to tell them.
But I want to ask you, Jeanie, and I want to hear your story, Jeanie, but were you already writing your book when this happened?
Jeanie has been, Jeanie's been writing since we've been married.
But were you writing this book, David?
No. I wrote that book in 3 months. We had a lovely home in Lake George, and I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was my time. I had this beautiful place to sit, and I wrote that whole thing by hand. It just poured out. It wasn't a laborer's thing. It was a labor of love. It just came right out. It was unbelievable. And I would put on a pot of coffee, and I would work. And eventually, I would hear Jean 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock. Whenever I could hear her move upstairs, my attention went that way, and I would stop. But I'd be wired because I drank a whole pot of coffee. But it took about 3 months, and I wrote 90% of the book up in Lake George. And then I had it. I came down, and my dear neighbor, Diane Sauter, literally took my manuscripts, because I wrote it by hand, and put it on the computer for me.
Wow. Well, I want to ask, did you keep journals over the years, or is this a total recall?
No, we're scrapbook addicts. I started scrapbooking in Peter Pan. I have a scrapbook for every year going back to 1950.
God bless you. Wow.
I can tell you pretty much what we've done almost every month of our lives. So I didn't look at the books for memories. Everything I wrote was right there.
Yeah.
I didn't have to be prompted about it.
That's incredible. Well, Jeanie, you were going to tell a story earlier. Now, are we ready for that story?
Oh dear. No, I know. I think that was what
one?
Was that Hoffer?
That was about Hoffer.
Oh, that was that story. Now, we are going to give away your book. One of the things that I do at the end of my shows, this is my homage to James Lipton inside the Actors Studio. I have some random questions here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the word today is gratitude. If you type in hashtag gratitude, and we're going to give away a book. And I've got some questions, and I'm going to start with you, Jeanie. And these are just random questions, just to get a greater sense of the two of you. And starting with you, Jeanie, what was the best gift that you gave to someone in this business?
Probably mascara.
Who did you give it to?
I think one of the girls when I did Boys from Syracuse in New York at the little Theater 4.
Okay. And David, what kind of a relationship? Well, we already know this because you've already told us, and it's in your book. You had a wonderful relationship with your parents. They were supportive of your pursuits. What was the best piece of advice that you feel that you got from both of your parents?
It was work ethic. When, as a child, I grew up in a family with absolutely no money. If you needed something and you wanted it, you had to work for it. You'd have to mow somebody's lawn or do something because there were no change hanging around. Mom and Dad had no money. Dad, as I said, was a junk man. We were ecstatically happy in our ignorance. Ignorance is bliss. And Dad would say to me, I have a job for you, Dave. Yeah, whoa, great, Dad, what is it? Well, it wasn't because I was going to get paid. It was because I would have had a chance to please him. So I would say to him, what's the job? And he said, well, before I tell you about this job, I'm getting mixed messages here.
It's a dog.
What?
Pick her up.
Anyway, I've killed my story here. My dad would say, before I give you this job, Dave, I know you're going to give me 100%. I said, oh, Dad, no, I'm going to give you 125, guaranteed. Right. He said, well, that's just what I wanted to hear, Dave. That's really important. He says, I said, what's the job, Dad? What's the job? He says, no, I've been thinking about this, Dave. It's a pretty important job. You know, I may just need 150. Okay. Well, Dad, how about 180? I'll give you 180%. What's the job, Dad? What's the job? See, well, I would get the job. Well, we developed what we call in our family now, particularly, is the 180% rule. If you're willing to give 180% into anything that comes into from a passion coming out of here, I guarantee you success, because that's what happened to me. Everything that I did, I never did anything by half. It was always the 80% rule. And that was given to me by my mom and dad.
That is wonderful. And thank you for sharing that with us. Jeanie, what is the best single piece of advice that you have ever received from anyone?
From anybody or to somebody?
From anyone. Or if you want to say to anyone, that's okay too.
Well, I think being married to Dave for 60 years, and they say, how could you, really? I think the best advice is always, whether you're married or single or who you are, or what, it's just got to have a good sense of humor. My mother had it, and she was a riot, and a wonderful woman. And I've got to tell you a very quick story about how we got a car. We finished the matinee in New York. In London. And we got the tube. We're walking home on a very, very cold evening. And Mum said, here, love, you got to come with me. I've got a present for you both, because she was Cockney. And so I said, okay, Mum, it's a bit late, love, isn't it? She said, no, we're going to go to Auntie Ede's. I think you're going to like it. So there was Mum in her old slippers with holes in the bottom, and Dad was there, my brother was there, and we walked in this cold evening to my auntie, because she had a couple of bob, she was rich, and so Mum opened the garage door, and there was Dolly, and Dolly was this old 1932 Austin 7, of which they paid with great glee. They paid £12 for it,
but
which was what? How much?
$30.
$30. And what was lovely is that the English are very sort of standoffish. they're not lovely and warm like the Americans are with their family. So my Uncle Fred painted it. My Uncle Boy, who worked on the planes, he did riveting. The other one blew up. It was unbelievable that the whole family got together and brought Dolly to life. And we took Dolly all over on tour with us.
3,000 miles all over England. We drove Dolly.
And I'm so grateful for that, because I would never have seen my own country, and it was so wonderful. And there was Dolly. And I remember one evening we were going back to surprise my mum for Christmas. And Dave said, look, I think we're going to pull over, get some tea. I said, oh, good, lovely. So we got the flask and I'm sitting there pouring the tea. He said, oh, no, love. No, can you just wet something and lean out? Because I can't see the windshield. It's foggy. So there I was on the bloody Western Avenue, hanging my tush out the car, cleaning the window with hot bloody tea.
She wasn't allowed to drink it.
No. Because it was so foggy, the frost was coming on the windshield. So we've had some wonderful times, but it's also a sense of humor.
It's a sense of humor. Well, hello, Dolly. That's all I can say. Hello, Dolly. So I have a calendar on my desk, and I pulled this last week from my calendar, and I'm going to take this to you, David. And this entry on my calendar says, my heart longs for peace and cries out for justice. Today's self-love action, how can I be a force of peace in the world today while also promoting justice? And that's my question for you. How can you be a force of peace in the world today while also promoting justice?
I think that for me, that's an easy question, because basically we do it every day. Jennifer is running the store, and we go into the store, and basically it's showtime. And we, particularly for the young that come into the store and anyone who's interested in theater, or anyone who's interested in work, we really work very hard at giving back to them advice and encouragement and basically the 180 rule. Now, if I could change something that would change the world, gosh, wouldn't that be wonderful? But I can't. But I can change what's within reach.
Mm.
And that's what I think we do on a daily basis. We love all the kids that come in. If they need anything, we're there. We try to work with schools and the young, particularly. I think you'll find a theme going through our book, that it's inspirational. In other words, if you find that passion and put the work in, you will be successful. You have to have the confidence to do that. And we give that every day. And I think it makes a difference in our world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jeanie, what was the greatest advice that you ever got from your dad?
Marry me.
Well, I was, strange enough, quite shy when I was a kid, and I had won a scholarship to the Royal Academy. And I always walked my head down. I didn't ever raise my eyes, and it was a little bit strange. But there was a time when I would say, my dad, look at that daffodil, look at this. Next week we're going to do. And my father would say, next week, Jean, no, you live for today, and you let tomorrow take care of itself. And then I said, no, Dad, you can't. I'm going to do the pantomime of Cinderella. I've got to think about what I'm wearing and my point shoes. But he said, you know what, Jean? I just hope that I'm not around when your feet hit the ground. I never quite understood that until many, many, many years later. I thought, and I drive poor David bloody balmy, because I'm driving along, and the other day there was a little stream, and there was a little loon in the stream where we live. And I said, oh my Dave, look, oh my God. And Dave said, what? And you don't do that, but it was seeing nature and seeing all the beautiful things around us that we don't seem to see sometimes.
But your parents gave you that Bluebell Lane, going fishing on the canal.
Yeah.
You did all that.
Yeah.
you sucked in life
Yeah.
as a young person.
Yeah.
And you still have that.
Thank you.
You still do that.
Thank you.
That's great. Ah, that's wonderful. David, do you make New Year's resolutions? And if so, have you been able to keep them this year?
No and yes.
Great answer. Jeanie, what is the one person besides David that you have most enjoyed working with in your career?
I think it was George. George was oh God, no, it was only, well, I think George was part of the Americans coming. The English people, you know, when these boys took class, good Lord, they wore jock straps over their sweatpants. I mean, really? I mean, that was very naughty. I mean, English girls don't sort of, you know, it's all very, you know, neat and tidy, and we wore tights and stuff like that. But George was this wonderful wonder. I think I fell madly in love with him in the film doing America. I couldn't believe that gorgeous body doing America when that choreography came and all those words with Eddie Verso and all, oh, good Lord. It was just dynamite. It was just so wonderful. And I think, you know, I was at, what was that, 19, and George was so gorgeous and so gracious, and he shared his biscuits because his mum was Greek. So she'd send him all these lovely biscuits. And I thought that was really neat. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And you mentioned the choreography. I do want to give a shout out to Justin Peck, who is the choreographer for the latest incarnation of West Side Story. It's just incredible. David, have you ever met a celebrity and found that they were much kinder than you expected them to be?
Well,
notice I said kinder instead of
question, but I have to go back to Justin Peck, because when I finished my costume call on the Saturday in the Harlem when we were doing the cameo, I was escorted down to watch the kids do 8 bars of the prologue on 136th Street in Harlem, and Justin Peck was I wanted to jump up and be on that street and dance with them. It was just absolutely so exciting and so wonderful. It was so very exciting. And yes, there was one person that I thought was equal to her reputation in terms of awe, Marilyn Monroe.
Wow.
Yes, she was divine. No, I'm not kidding. She really was. And we had such a great time. I danced with her all night.
Oh, that's incredible. And I've got one last question, and you can decide who will go first. What truly motivated you this past week?
Oh, where is she? Hang on. Excuse me. I'll tell you. You answer the question, David.
Well, I'm going to answer the question. It's a small ball of fluff. And we call her Lily. And she's 9 weeks old, and she's a Maltese Terrier.
This is what motivated me.
Meet Lily, everybody.
This is Lily.
Hold on for 1 second. Danny, can you bring Benny in? I want you to meet Benny.
We're not on the big screen, so I can't see you.
Well, I will bring you on the big screen after I give, let's give away the book, and then I will bring you on the big screen.
Okay, well, that'll be a pleasure. That'll be a fun thing. I would absolutely.
So we'll see who we're going to give the book away to tonight. Lisa Rodrigo, my publicist, is the winner. So here's Benny. Thank you.
Oh, look.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. Did you take my dog away from the screen? I mean, look at this.
Oh, how funny.
Oh, my goodness.
Look.
Oh,
my gosh.
Oh, so
we'll my goodness me. Look at
that.
Oh, that's
We're going to have a play date.
Yes, yes.
Yes. I cannot wait to come up and see your store. So how old is your baby?
11 weeks.
Oh, 11 weeks. He's just almost, he's going to be 3 very soon.
Not till December.
Not till December, but he's
Isn't that amazing?
Does he dance?
Dance?
Yes.
Well, very good at sitting down and then being good, and then I give him a little treat.
Well, I'm going to send you a video of this has been he dances. So since you're both dancers, I'm going to send you a video of him dancing.
Oh, how fun.
And of course, we look forward to Ritchard Skipper live.
Yes, I would love that. I want to thank you both so much. Don't go anywhere for just a moment. This book is so incredible. Lisa, of course, is going to be getting her copy that I hope both of you will sign for Lisa. And make sure that you put a paw print in the book as well.
Oh, funny. Yes.
Yes. But that doesn't mean the rest of you shouldn't get a copy as well. But what you need to do is call your favorite bookseller and ask if they have it on their shelves. And if they don't have it on their shelves, tell them to get it on their shelves. And in the meantime, what you can do is you can go to Amazon.com. It's called When You're a Jet, and order 2 copies. Keep 1 copy for yourself. And then what I would like you to do is I would like you to send a copy this is what you're going to do, is you're going to go to your Facebook friends list, and you're going to reach out to the 4th person on your list, and you're going to send that 4th friend a copy of the book. And you're going to let them know what they mean to you with a phone call as well. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call. Because as my dear friend Sean Moniger says, you never know what someone else is going through right now. And it's very important that you pick up the phone and you call people, especially during these trying times. And as I said to David and Jeanie, can you imagine if I had been there with them when that boat went down? Make sure you bring a skipper along if you're going to go out in a boat. It's very important. So David and Jeanie, I'm going to leave the screen and I'm going to give you the final word. Anything that you want to say about anything that we talked about tonight that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any message that you want to put out to anyone who's watching right now. Don't worry about how to end the show. As soon as you say goodbye, the credits will roll. I had a blast. I hope you'll come back. Will you?
It's been lovely.
How lovely
It's
of
been
you to
lovely.
ask us. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And it's all yours.
Thank you. Oh, look, there we are.
There we are.
Oh, wow.
Well, basically, I'm going to go back to the book.
Okay.
One of the things I think is so important to us about the book is that, one, it is an autobiography, but it's not a history lesson. It's not, then I did, then I sang this, and then I did this, and then again. It's a story of Jean and I working in theater and changing careers and raising our daughter Jennifer, and it's stories of our lives and how we did it, and with the enthusiasm that we had to do it with. It's a wonderful read. It's an uplifting read. It's not just a simple biography, and I'm rather proud of that, because I didn't realize that's how it was going to come out, but that's what's coming back to us from publishing the book. Our publisher, Trip Sinnott, was a brilliant help putting the book together, and so visually the book is wonderful to look at. It's well put together. You'll enjoy it.
I think my thing is, I hope what everybody's gone through, and is still going through it, I just hope that you all have met somebody, or I'm with David, and there are people to share your life, and just reach out. As Skipper said, just try and reach out and make somebody happy, and just go through the day and say, I'm going to do one thing that is very special, whether you just treat somebody to a cup of coffee, or whether you just think about somebody else as opposed to ourselves. And I just want to also thank my daughter and my grandson.
No.
Surprise. because he helped put this together. Because unfortunately, at our age, we're lucky to know what we're going to do tomorrow. So I think that, you know, I want to say thank you to Connor Cahill and his mum, who's working very hard in the store, and Jim, who's divine, the whole family. We are so blessed to have such a wonderful family. And so I think the thing is, just be kind, and no matter how badly your day is going, just look up to the sky or look for a flower or a tree in bloom or something, just to make your heart go a little bit faster.
You can do it too, Max. You know who I am. Hi, Barbara. I had to say that because this is...
Who the hell is Max?
Max Streeten, my high school club buddy. Sure.
Okay.
She's a dear thing. Yeah.
So, are we done?
Yes, we're done. Thank you all.
David Tagabino.
Very nice.